Night of Champions was a professional wrestling pay-per-view event produced by WWE. This year's event took place on September 15, 2013 at the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit, Michigan. It was the 7th annual Night of Champions event, and the 8th pay-per-view in the 2013 lineup. The theme of this PPV was that every championship in WWE was defended. The event received 175,000 buys, which is down from last year's event of 189,000. Background: Night of Champions featured professional wrestling matches that involved different wrestlers from pre-existing feuds, plots, and storylines that played out on WWE's primary television programs, Raw and SmackDown. Wrestlers portrayed villains or heroes as they followed a series of events that built tension and culminated in a wrestling match or series of matches. Following his win over John Cena at SummerSlam, Daniel Bryan lost the WWE Championship when special guest referee and Chief Operating Officer Triple H attacked Bryan, allowing Randy Orton to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase to win the championship. Triple H and the McMahons stated it was best for business, because Bryan did not fit the mold to be WWE Champion. Naming Orton the new face of WWE, they also formed an alliance with The Shield. Leading up to Night of Champions, Bryan was forced to compete in several challenging matches, including a steel cage match with Wade Barrett, a gauntlet match against the 3 members of The Shield, and a match with Big Show. After defeating Dean Ambrose on the September 9 episode of Raw, Bryan was again assaulted by the rest of The Shield and Orton. On August 5, Rob Van Dam defeated World Heavyweight Champion Alberto Del Rio in a non-title match after Ricardo Rodriguez's interference backfired. After the match, Del Rio attacked Rodriguez for his actions. 2 weeks later, Rodriguez returned to inform Del Rio that he was now representing Van Dam. Van Dam continued to attack Del Rio, both on Raw and SmackDown, and on the August 26 episode of Raw, Van Dam won a non-title match over Del Rio due to Rodriguez's help. On September 6, Del Rio cost Van Dam a non-title match against Randy Orton, and attacked him after the match. The following week, Vicky Guerrero forced Rodriguez to face Del Rio. After winning the match, Del Rio put Rodriguez in cross-arm breaker until Van Dam made the save. After being defeated by Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, CM Punk continued his feud with Paul Heyman, thus starting another one with Intercontinental Champion Curtis Axel by attacking him the next night on Raw. 4 days later on SmackDown, Axel challenged Punk to a match, which Punk accepted. On August 26, on Raw, Punk defeated Axel in a singles match, and by vote of WWE Universe, Heyman would be forced to face Punk in the ring, but Axel interfered and attacked Punk. Heyman also joined in the assault. Brad Maddox granted Punk's wish of facing Heyman by giving him an elimination handicap match at Night of Champions against Axel and Heyman. On the August 26 episode of Raw, AJ Lee interrupted the celebration over Brie Bella's victory in a SummerSlam rematch against Natalya, berating the cast of Total Divas, calling them interchangeable and expendable, and stating they were not good enough to be wrestlers, so they went into reality TV. On the September 2 episode of Raw, AJ Lee interfered in a triple threat match between Natalya, Naomi, and Brie Bella, which was to determine the #1 contender for her Divas Championship. As a result, Stephanie McMahon announced that AJ would defend her Divas Championship in a fatal 4-way match against Natalya, Naomi and Brie Bella at Night of Champions. On the September 9, 2013 episode of Raw, it was announced that a tag team turmoil match to decide the #1 contenders for the WWE Tag Team Championship would take place during the Night of Champions kickoff, with the winners challenging champions The Shield later in the night. On the September 13 episode of SmackDown, Dolph Ziggler faced Dean Ambrose for a title shot opportunity for the United States Championship at Night of Champions. Although Reigns and Rollins interfered when Ziggler was closing in on the win, he was still given the championship match. Aftermath: the next night on Raw, Daniel Bryan was stripped of the WWE Championship by Triple H, because referee Scott Armstrong made a fast 3 count, and Triple H seemed to think Bryan was in on it as a conspiracy. He then punished Bryan more by putting him in a match with Roman Reigns. Though Bryan won, he was again assaulted by the rest of the Shield and Orton. Orton put Bryan's head in between the folds of a chair, but before he could further injure Bryan, the majority of face WWE superstars ran to the ring and attacked Orton and the Shield, with Bryan finishing them off with a high knee to Seth Rollins. At Night of Champions, Rob Van Dam won his World Heavyweight match by disqualification when Alberto Del Rio refused to release the cross-arm breaker, despite Van Dam reaching the ropes. On the September 20 episode of SmackDown, Triple H gave Van Dam a rematch with Del Rio at Battleground for the World Heavyweight Championship. Immediately afterwards, Del Rio would proceed to viciously assault RVD backstage. CM Punk began feuding with Paul Heyman in July after Heyman cost him the Money in the Bank ladder match for a WWE Championship contract. This resulted in Punk fighting and losing to Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. Punk continued to feud with Heyman and his other client, Curtis Axel, resulting in a handicap elimination match at Night of Champions. After Axel was eliminated, Punk handcuffed and beat down Heyman much like Heyman had done to him a couple of weeks prior on Raw. However, Ryback made the save, putting Punk through a table and costing him the match. On the September 23 episode of Raw, it was announced that Punk would face Ryback at Battleground. AJ Lee would continue her feud with the members of the Total Divas cast. On the September 23 episode of Raw, Brie Bella pinned AJ Lee during a 10-diva tag team match, leading her to a title match at Battleground. Results: Tag Team Turmoil match, see also. List of WWE pay-per-view events, WWE Night of Champions, references. External links, official website.